Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Chapter 1. Merry Christmas. The next day was Christmas Eve. The next day was Christmas Eve. And at 9 o'clock in the evening, Beth played the piano. And at 9 o'clock in the evening, Beth played the piano. And they sang Christmas carols. And they sang Christmas carols. Then they went to bed. Then they went to bed. Joe got up early on Christmas morning. Joe got up early on Christmas morning.
Merry Christmas, everyone,
she said happily.
Merry Christmas, everyone,
she said happily. The four girls dressed quickly and went to the kitchen. The four girls dressed quickly and went to the kitchen. The four girls dressed quickly and went to the kitchen. Hannah, the family servant, was already there. Hannah, the family servant, was already there. Hannah, the family servant, was already there. There was a special Christmas breakfast for the family on the table. There was a special Christmas breakfast for the family on the table. There was a special Christmas breakfast for the family on the table.
Merry Christmas, Hannah. Where's Mother?
Asked Meg.
Merry Christmas, Hannah. Where's Mother?
A poor woman came to ask her for some help, so she went to see her,
said Hannah.
A poor woman came to ask her for some help, so she went to see her,
said Hannah. The girls put their mother's presents in the living room. The girls put their mother's presents in the living room. The girls put their mother's presents in the living room. Just then, Mrs. March opened the front door. Just then, Mrs. March opened the front door. Just then, Mrs. March opened the front door.
Merry Christmas!
They all said together.
Merry Christmas!
They all said together.
And a Merry Christmas to you,
said Mrs. March.
And a Merry Christmas to you,
said Mrs. March.
Listen, girls, there's a very poor woman near here. Listen, girls, there's a very poor woman near here. Listen, girls, there's a very poor woman near here. She and her family came here from Germany. They're immigrants. She and her family came here from Germany. They're immigrants. They're immigrants. They're immigrants. Her name is Mrs. Hummel, and she has 6 children and a new baby. Her name is Mrs. Hummel, and she has 6 children and a new baby. They have no fire and no food on Christmas Day. They have no fire and no food on Christmas Day. Will you give them your breakfast as a Christmas present? Will you give them your breakfast as a Christmas present? Will you give them your breakfast as a Christmas present?
The girls were hungry and looked at the good food on the table. The girls were hungry and looked at the good food on the table. The girls were hungry and looked at the good food on the table.
I'm glad we didn't start eating,
said Joe.
I'm glad we didn't start eating, I'm glad we didn't start eating.
Oh, yes.
said Beth.
We must take it to that poor family. Oh, yes. We must take it to that poor family.
I'll take the cakes.
said Amy.
I'll take the cakes. I'll take the cakes.
Cakes were her favorite food. Cakes were her favorite food. And it was difficult for Amy to give away something she liked. And it was difficult for Amy to give away something she liked. And it was difficult for Amy to give away something she liked.
I'll prepare a nice basket for them,
said Meg.
I'll prepare a nice basket for them. I'll prepare a nice basket for them.
Good,
said Mrs. March.
When we come back, we can have some bread and milk. Good. When we come back, we can have some bread and milk. Good. When we come back, we can have some bread and milk.
When they returned home, the sisters gave their mother the presents. When they returned home, the sisters gave their mother the presents. The sisters gave their mother the presents. She was very happy. She was very happy. In the evening, the four sisters performed a play in the attic. In the evening, the four sisters performed a play in the attic. The four sisters performed a play in the attic. The four sisters performed a play in the attic. Some friends came to see it too. Some friends came to see it too. Everyone had fun and laughed. Everyone had fun and laughed. Everyone had fun and laughed. Joe liked writing stories and plays. Joe liked writing stories and plays. After the play, the girls and their friends went downstairs to the kitchen. After the play, the girls and their friends went downstairs to the kitchen. The girls and their friends went downstairs to the kitchen. There were all kinds of delicious food on the table. There were all kinds of delicious food on the table. There were all kinds of delicious food on the table. And there were beautiful flowers too. And there were beautiful flowers too. The girls were very surprised. The girls were very surprised.
Where did this come from?
Asked Amy.
Where did this come from?
Asked Amy.
Where did this come from? Where did this come from? And the flowers?
Asked Joe.
And the flowers?
Asked Joe.
Mother did it,
Said Meg.
Mother did it, Mother did it.
No,
Said Mrs. March.
old Mr. Lawrence sent it. No, old Mr. Lawrence sent it.
Mr. Lawrence and his grandson live alone in that big house. Mr. Lawrence and his grandson live alone in that big house. And I don't think they have any friends.
Said one of the girls.
And I don't think they have any friends.
Said one of the girls.
I think the grandson's shy. I think the grandson's shy. He stays at home and studies with his tutor. He stays at home and studies with his tutor. He stays at home and studies with his tutor.
I heard that he traveled to Europe,
said Amy.
I heard that he traveled to Europe. I heard that he traveled to Europe.
Old Mr. Lawrence knows we helped the Hummel family, and he was pleased,
said Mrs. March.
Old Mr. Lawrence knows we helped the Hummel family, and he was pleased. I don't know him, but I think he's a kind gentleman. I don't know him, but I think he's a kind gentleman.
The next day was Christmas Eve, and at 9 o'clock in the evening, Beth played the piano, and they sang Christmas carols. Then they went to bed. Joe got up early on Christmas morning.
Merry Christmas, everyone,
she said happily. The 4 girls dressed quickly and went to the kitchen. Hannah, the family servant, was already there. There was a special Christmas breakfast for the family on the table.
Merry Christmas, Hannah. Where's Mother?
Asked Meg.
A poor woman came to ask her for some help, so she went to see her,
said Hannah. The girls put their mother's presents in the living room. Just then, Mrs. March opened the front door.
Merry Christmas,
they all said together.
And a Merry Christmas to you,
said Mrs. March.
Listen, girls, there's a very poor woman near here. She and her family came here from Germany. They're immigrants. Her name is Mrs. Hummel, and she has 6 children and a new baby. They have no fire and no food on Christmas Day. Will you give them your breakfast as a Christmas present?
The girls were hungry and looked at the good food on the table.
I'm glad we didn't start eating,
said Joe.
Oh, yes,
said Beth.
We must take it to that poor family.
I'll take the cakes,
said Amy. Cakes were her favorite food, and it was difficult for Amy to give away something she liked.
I'll prepare a nice basket for them,
said Meg.
Good,
said Mrs. March.
When we come back, we can have some bread and milk.
When they returned home, the sisters gave their mother the presents. She was very happy. In the evening, the 4 sisters performed a play in the attic. Some friends came to see it, too. Everyone had fun and laughed. Joe liked writing stories and plays. After the play, the girls and their friends went downstairs to the kitchen. There were all kinds of delicious food on the table, and there were beautiful flowers, too. The girls were very surprised.
Where did this come from?
Asked Amy.
And the flowers?
Asked Joe.
Mother did it,
said Meg.
No,
said Mrs. March.
old Mr. Lawrence sent it.
Mr. Lawrence and his grandson live alone in that big house, and I don't think they have any friends,
said one of the girls.
I think the grandson's shy. He stays at home and studies with his tutor.
I heard that he traveled to Europe,
said Amy.
Old Mr. Lawrence knows we helped the Hummel family, and he was pleased,
said Mrs. March.
I don't know him, but I think he's a kind gentleman.